Hello, House of Robb.
Hi.
So, Suzy, I don't think it's an understatement to say that you are really one of the most inspiring business executives working today. And I'm not just saying that because you're here and on camera and I want to blow smoke. I mean, your story is really fascinating.
Thank you.
For everything that you've achieved, I was really surprised when I was starting my research for this conversation that you didn't necessarily have the most supportive upbringing. In fact, you have made it through some pretty serious trauma. But at every stage, you have seemed to keep going. And so my question is, dealing with experiences where other people might give up, you have continued to persevere. Where does that come from, and how do I get it?
You have it. I've been asked that question a lot and didn't have an answer, honestly, until about a year ago. I was like, I don't know, I had some resilience. What I realized is when you grow up in survival, right, you grow up poor or in some sort of marginalized environment, you develop a survival energy within you, right? Well, that energy continues carrying. So you think about it, if you've been through physical abuse, sexual abuse, people dying, suicide attempts, everything I've been through, when a business problem comes or something, it's like, well, hell, I've been through a lot more than that, right? So there's this natural resilience that we all have to just life. Like, let's get real. 2 years ago, everybody almost died, on the planet, right? What was that, 2 years ago? When was...
4 now.
Oh, God. Well, I lost 2 years. Everybody did. But you realize that we went through all of that stress, and now what we have is this resilience to face really hard things like death, right? Or potential death. Possible death is what we all thought in our minds. You can utilize that energy in a way of moving forward with success. So when an obstacle comes at you, you're like, okay, I handled that. Now what do I do?
You also have always had a really entrepreneurial spirit. One of my favorite stories about you is when you were maybe a teenager, you developed a shoe and sold it to Guess.
I wish I would have sold it to Guess. Then I wouldn't have had that hard entrepreneurial streak, right? No, when I was 17, again, another thing, growing up poor, like we had to make all of our clothes. I had to make everything. So, you made dinner, you made your clothes. I didn't think about buying things because that just wasn't the way I was raised so much. You did that at Christmas, right? You got the new sweater, whatever, at Christmas. So when I was 17, pumps were in style, and you had to wear, back then, if you wore a red sweater, you wore red pumps. Well, I didn't have that much money, and I only had 2 pair of pumps, pink and red, and I thought if these were denim, they would match everything. So my boyfriend's aunt worked at a shoe factory, so I drew up a shoe, I cut out, denim, I cut out leather, and I said, make these, and they were fabulous, and I called Guess in New York, being 17, not knowing I could sell the idea, right? I just wanted to tell them, like, this is so great. I made this denim shoe. So I did. And they were like, this is amazing. Come to New York. We're going to start a shoe line. And I went to my mom, and she said, you can't go to New York. And I said, why? And she said, well, you're just that little girl from Arkansas. They're going to chew you up and spit you out. So I never went. And guess what? Guess came out with 2 years later.
Was it a denim shoe?
Yes, a denim pump. But that just goes to show you, anything that I've ever done entrepreneurial, I first think of making it. So with Poo-Pourri, it didn't exist. I wanted the product, so I created it. Supernatural, I wanted the product, I created it. Portal collection, jewelry, I wanted the product that wasn't out there, so I made it. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's the mindset that I've always had as an entrepreneur. I don't go out there and look for, as a matter of fact, I just told my team this morning, they were like, oh, she found white space. And I'm like, no, I don't do any of that, right? It's literally, I want something, it doesn't exist, so I create it. Because I know there's a demand because I want it, right? And there's got to be others that want the same thing.
Right, if you want something, there's such a great chance that you're going to solve a problem for other people too.
Yes, exactly.
Talk to me about the moment of inspiration for Poo-Pourri. Now, for those of you who don't know, I would encourage you to visit one of the House of Robb restrooms because Poo-Pourri is in all of them.
I saw that. I was happy.
What does Poo-Pourri do, and how were you inspired to create it?
Well, it's really funny. We were at a small house, a one-bedroom house at a family dinner party, and the bathroom wasn't great. And someone said, "Can bathroom odor be trapped?" And I've recently just discovered in the past few months that I have a gift of seeing things. I don't know if you guys, when you have ideas, if you hear them, see them, do you see things? No, completely, like a picture, right? That clear. Okay, ooh, I got chill bumps. That's exciting. Yeah, so I saw oil floats on water. I work with essential oils. I was like, I can do that, because I saw it. And there wasn't a single person in my life thought it was a good idea, not one. Okay, so I'm over here slaving in my kitchen, but it doesn't matter because I already saw it. So I did. It took me 9 months. I mixed it in my kitchen. And then my husband at the time walks out of the bathroom, the one that hated testing it because he didn't believe it. And he walks out of the bathroom and he goes, "Oh my God, we're going to be millionaires." And I go, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "You realize what you've done? You've taken the smell out of shit." And I was like, "It works?" He goes, "Yeah." So I sent it out to like 12 friends, and I could be type A. I sent them all a form, right? You know, rating the efficacy. And they all called back and they're like, "Girl, put this on the market. It is so good." I had just been through my second bankruptcy, so I did not want to ever be in business ever again. Business was the devil to me, right? It caused me so much stress and pain. But like a new mother giving birth that may not want to raise a child, you see it and you're like, okay, let's go. So that's what I did with Poo-Pourri.
The first time that I tried the product, I was at a friend's house in the Hamptons, and I hope that I won't offend you by saying this, but I remember thinking that it was a joke. And my friend who owned the house said, no, this is a real product that, solves an issue here on this little beach shack, so.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we had that problem for quite a few years, but I started it off as a joke. You have to remember, this was 17 years ago. Nobody wanted to talk about poop. I'm proud to say I think we have shifted some consciousness there where we allow people to do that. Yeah, it was a joke because when I realized I was making it, and I would harass all my neighbors. They would come over to visit, and I'd be like, "Do you got to go to the bathroom? I needed testers, man." And I'd be like, "Number 1 or number 2? I need number 2. But what I realized is people just looked like they'd seen a ghost. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And then I remembered in comedy that comedians can get across very tough topics by, making a joke of the subject. So that's how I came up with the name Poo-Pourri. And then I would tell someone about it, and they'd look at me like I was crazy, and I would say, "Spritz the bowl before you go, and no one else will ever know." And they'd go, "What?" So they would start leaning in. So I used humor to our advantage. So it took a bit in the midsection for people to not think it was a joke, but to still keep the humor, which is the, in our core values of Poo-Pourri, but put it more in the marketing angle versus, and saying it works guaranteed, it's a real product. So I started 10 years ago switching that. So most people now hopefully know it's a legit real product, but it was a challenge.
I think what is so fascinating about the product is that it is representative in a lot of ways of your story. You have found success by dealing with your shit, which I think is something that we all, I'm so sorry. He's so young. Dealing with your stuff.
I'm sure they've never heard that. His dad's probably like, "I just said it."
Dealing with your stuff. And that clearly is something that you have done. If you come through hardship and adversity, you either resolve it or you don't. What were the things that helped you resolve some of the challenges that you'd been through earlier in your life?
Basically everything. It was funny, I was having a trouble with a family member, and I realized that I'd had these codependent patterns, so I put myself in a treatment center for codependency. It was 68 hours of therapy in a week, and about 4 days in, the therapist said, "You realize you have everyone here intimidated?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "You've done more therapy than any of us." But with that being said I lived my first 38 years of my life miserable, depressed for 7 years on antidepressants, drinking, smoking, just a really unbalanced life, right? I wasn't happy. So the reason I've done so much work is because I wanted to be happy. So here I am, I'm happy. I found a bliss state before Poo-Pourri. I had not I won't say a penny in my name. I just filed bankruptcy, okay? And I found a place inside of me where I knew where wealth resided. I knew it was an internal state of being, and the external world had nothing to do with that. So I started finding and living a rich internal life, right? So then as I started Poo-Pourri, I really didn't want to leave that life. I was sitting at home crying in bliss, almost like a semi-enlightened state or enlightened state, right? But I knew that this, just like a child can help you grow, a relationship can help you grow, I knew that Poo-Pourri also has to be able to enable me to grow inside. So every business challenge that I had, I would look internal. Okay, for example, I sued a $50 billion company for knocking us off a few years ago. It was about 6 years ago. I'm gonna talk about what I can talk about it. And everyone, it was hard for me to find an attorney. Nobody thought I was ever gonna win. We were like a speck compared to them. But they blatantly knocked off our product. They were putting toilet bowl cleaner in it, really damaging my brand. So I went after them. But what I realized, this guy comes to talk to me from the corporate headquarters, and all of a sudden, something bubbles up out of me, and I tell him, you know that this is not about this particular lawsuit, that I was molested when I was young. Somebody tried to take something that's mine. And I want you to know I'm not that little girl anymore. And I'm telling you no. Yeah. And he just sat there and looked, and he left like a minute later. I was imagining that call to the CEO, going, we got a bigger issue here. And I did end up winning. We settled, which I wish I would have had that day in court. I still kind of regret that, a fighter in me. But I did get everything that we wanted. They quit the brand, they quit copying us so much. But what I realized is that whole experience, while you think about it being a business challenge, it was really my internal growth, right? Of me being able to fight the David and Goliath moment, of me not being able to say no when I was young, but now being able to.
Fully stepping into your power.
Completely.
You have this really fascinating concept called the alive idea. In fact, I think on your website you say that you're alive as...
Shit.
Yeah. What is an alive idea? How do we recognize what's an alive idea? How do we recognize what's maybe a dead idea?
I love this question because that question changed my entire creative business life. Someone was doing a film on me and he said, how do you know which idea to follow? You seem to know, and the ones that you follow work out, whether it's Poo-Pourri or our viral videos or something. I tried to explain it to him. He didn't understand. So I literally started studying at the office in creative meetings, going, how do I know where to go? And I started realizing that there's an internal, I feel excited. Right? When something is alive, I feel excited. So I called a cellular biologist, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and I said, our idea is alive. And he said, why do you ask? And I said, because it seems like the ideas I'm excited about and that turn me on work out, and the ones that don't. He taught me about resonance and dissonance. Resonance, right? I love that. Resonance is when you put two energy waves together, they create more energy together than they did apart. Dissonance is the opposite. It actually drains you of energy. So when people say this job's killing me, this relationship's killing me, they're right. What it's doing is it's depleting your life force energy. So they're actually speaking the truth, just most people don't know that. So what I believe is our body intelligence, our natural organism, these innate feelings, any child has it, any animal, that is actually our offense. Right, to AI, it'll be our superpower in the future. We're not going to be able to outthink it. So we got to try a different strategy. And it's something I've been onto for a few years myself. I knew that my mind can get crazy. It can be a blank show in there. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew I couldn't trust it. So what I started realizing is I can always trust my body. I'm in the business meeting and all of a sudden I get that drop in my stomach. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, you got to do it. Competition's coming, or XYZ scary monster, And yet I had that knot in my stomach. And I've learned to go, I'm not going to do it because I have this knot in my stomach. So I'm going to pay attention to this rather than that. And let me say, any uber successful person I've ever met operates on those same principles. It's just there's a gap. Most people don't know that. I have been in meetings with the most left-brain person I know. He's a multi-billionaire, top supply chain guy in the world. He was helping me, my company. And his team kept saying, the data says X, Y, Z. And he'd say, I know, but my gut tells me. And afterwards, I said, I noticed this happening. He goes, yeah, because data can only go so far, You got to go with what you feel, and then you can use the data to support what you feel. So I just think, again, most uber successful people know this. That's the way they've based their life. Because you have to. When the rings, when you're in the ring and the pressure's on, you're about to get knocked out, you're not thinking of a strategy. Your organism, right, your body is telling you what to do. Those same principles can be applied every day.
Is there anything that you fear or anything, still after all of this deep work to find, I'm going to quote Toni Morrison, the source of self-regard?
Oh, I love that.
She's, gone too soon, truly.
Yeah.
You've done all of this work, to really hone your internal capabilities. Is there anything that it can't handle? Is there anything that makes you sweat, keeps you up at night? No.
Not anything that I do. Because I'm a creative. I'm like a painter painting a painting. So a business to me is we'll try, we'll see. So I don't have a lot of attachment to it working while I want to support it and I want it to work. I don't betray energy or myself. So if there's no energy there, I'll shelf it. I have 2 companies right now that I tried to, it wasn't quite there. I'm like, okay, whatever. Let's go into something that's more exciting and more energetic right now. So I don't have a lot of fears. I faced a lot of failure. I don't really, that doesn't bother me. I think the biggest fear that I have in regards to, let's just say our future, I do think if we don't make some major shifts, I don't like to be a doomsdayer. There's some shit we need to wake up to, right?
Yeah.
And that we need to face. And I believe that my why of getting people to follow their dreams isn't just so I can have a feel-good moment. You have to understand when they are doing their why and when they're following what's inside of them, that's actually pings from evolution itself. So that's why I'm on the quest, because I believe that people will put more good in the world. You feel good, which is why I'm taking Alive into corporate America with Amplify. What I realize is it's great I'm changing so many lives, but we have people in corporate America making decisions for millions of people. And most of them are in dissonant states. A lot of them don't like their jobs. They hate the way they're treated. You are making decisions for millions and millions of people from a place where you're dissonant. So my new goal is to take it now into corporate America and let people start shifting. And that helps me with fear. Because the more I know that people are making changes, where I feel afraid is when we're not changing and we need to.
What's your why? We talk a lot about finding our why. What is yours?
My why is, what turns me on the most are people making their dreams come true. Because that's what I wanted to do. I just wrote Dolly a letter, and I told her...
Dolly Parton.
Yeah. And I told her she was a placeholder possibility for me, Oh, probably gonna get teary. But, I grew up in Arkansas, I was poor. Here's this woman who grew up even poorer than me, that's this mega superstar. I know that she only held that place for me until I could find it in myself. And that's what I told her, is that I'm a placeholder possibility for people, but only until they find it themselves, right? Because then they'll get it themselves and they'll go, and that makes me so happy. So that's my why.
What is one shift that everyone in the room right now can make?
Ooh, it'd be really fun. So this afternoon, you could start feeling into your body. And you could, let's just say, you could look at the list of menu options that you have for events, And you could kind of start noticing, I just got like a little, smile on the end of my face. It could be that. You could feel a little bubbly, excited. Don't go to the one that you don't have those feelings just because there's some industry knowledge you need to get or you're going to lose out, right? So you could start looking with what's resonant for me. What makes me feel alive at this event right now? And then look at what comes, and then pay attention, be present, and look what comes out of that. It's going to be a lot more than any note that you take from a place you really don't want to be. So you start following resonance, really pay attention to dissonance, pay attention to those drops in the stomach. I've got a bad feeling, those words that come out of your mouth, I don't know how I feel about this. Start moving away from those, or at least investigating to see what that bad feeling is caused from, right? You're going to find something, because the reason you have it is because it's there. Then you can start moving forward with something that's more alive and resonant with you.
Thank you so much for teaching us how to find alive ideas. Everyone, Suzy Batiz, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.